I want to raise certain big questions about air safety. What does the absence of a mayday call indicate in this case? If visibility was 3,000 meters, why was the first landing aborted? Why was there no readback after the ATC cleared the landing? Why did the aircraft miss the runway during the second landing? And importantly, is an uncontrolled small airfield like Baramati an accident waiting to happen? My guests include Captain Sam Thomas, President Airlines Pilot Association of India, Sanjay Lazar, aviation expert of Lazarus, CEO Alvalais Consultants is joining us. I want to come to you, Captain Thomas, first. This idea of an uncontrolled airfield, a small airfield like Baramati, where the captain or the pilot has to often rely on his own discretion. The ATC is located in Pune. Is it an accident waiting to happen? Is it far more dangerous when you are landing a small private aircraft in a small airport like Baramati?
Good evening. First of all, it's absolutely distressing to come on air each time for a tragic event like this. Our heartfelt condolence to the Honorable Minister's family, and our heart goes out to that young little girl who was the co-pilot of this airplane. And Captain Sumit Kapoor was a few years senior to me. He has briefly worked with us in Jet Airways as well as Air Sahara. Now, having said that, to your question of are uncontrolled airfields dangerous? Not necessarily. Uncontrolled airfields are there all over the world. And I do fly business jets into many uncontrolled airfields. However, in today's day and age, I don't understand why we do not have navigational aids that are making approaches to these kind of airports very easy. I believe today that whatever information that we have, this was a case of low visibility. When you say 3,200 meters, when you have visual flight rules, it generally requires 5 kilometers. Now, what has happened? We absolutely will not know without DFDR and ATC transcripts. The cockpit voice recorders, the ATC transcripts, and as we keep coming on the channels to tell you, sometimes it's not very nice to tell you, I told you so, particularly in tragic events. Now, this company has had another air crash a couple of years back. The report of that has not yet come out. So what we'd like to draw your attention right now is to the scene of the accident. Did you see the visuals there? It is a picnic spot. There are policemen there who don't know what they're there for. The least they can be doing is to cordon that area off. That's complete sanitization of that area is required because that's completely filled with evidence. Now, what we see there is everybody is trampling over that and people are passing judgments on what has happened. So, like I said earlier, we do not have the requisite information to tell you how this particular airplane crashed. Was this Learjet a problem? No, Learjet 45 is a very good airplane. And it by no means is an easy airplane to fly. Let me tell you that. It was one of the fastest corporate jets built in its time. So it requires a lot of skill. And the crew had the requisite skills because about 15,000 hours and knowing the pilot in command, I don't think skill was particularly a problem. But to your question of whether uncontrolled airspaces are dangerous, not necessarily, but yes, they are a challenge.
I'm also joined at this moment by Captain Amit Singh, who looks very closely at flight safety. Appreciate you also joining us, Captain. But I want to come to you, Sanjay Lazar, because the Aviation Regulator, Director General of Civil Aviation, says that they had conducted a regulatory audit of the aircraft owner VSR 17 plane fleet, including the crash aircraft in February 2025. And we are told that the aircraft was fully airworthy. Therefore, would it be completely unfair, sensationalist to suggest that this was an aircraft that was not airworthy, because the DGCA makes it very clear that they had conducted a regulatory audit of all the aircraft of VSR in February 2025. That's just under a year ago.
Well, Rajdeep, thank you for having me on the show. First point before I get to VVIP, I also want to point out, which Captain Sam probably, there are two flying academies that have been at Baramati over the last, at least Carver has been there for 30 years. Carver Aviation Academy, and you had Redbird, which came in. So there are a lot of student pilots also who operate in and out of Baramati. They don't have night flying, but they also don't have visual aid. Automated aids, like he said. That's one point. As far as the DGCA statement, and I did read it, they do claim to have done an audit of this company and this particular aircraft last year. The point that Sam mentioned is very important. There's a 2023 crash of the same company, similar type of, Learjet 45XL at Mumbai. The AAIB has not yet come out with the report. It's 3 years since then. Isn't that an indicator of some, where we are stuck at in our system? The second thing is, of course, they've done a check, but an aircraft is a machine. At the end of the day, something could go wrong. If it has to go wrong at the nth minute or at the last hour, you really can't tell. We know here that this pilot was a very senior qualified pilot. He'd flown on bigger aircraft and big airlines as well as this, 15,000 hours in command, and he did a go around. There was apparently low visibility, which the DGCA says, and we don't know what happened that made the plane veer off into that, whether you call it a gorge or a ravine or the side shoulder, which is off this tabletop. I think our regulator needs more regulation. That's what I'd like to say. I have long since said it, including on your channel earlier. We need a restructuring of our organization because we have become too big as an aviation nation, and we are growing exponentially every year. So we need to look at restructuring the DGCA. There was a bill, CAA bill, which I think Sanat Kaul mentioned on your show a month ago when I was there. And that seems to be the need of the hour at this point, Rajdeep.
I just for a moment want to focus though on VVIPs traveling in these aircraft. Captain Amit Singh, your founder, Safety Matters, fellow Aero Society and former head flight operations and safety, I want to understand from you, in cases like this with low visibility, should the pilot in an ideal world have just turned back, gone to Pune, rather than push for a second landing? There was talk that because Mr. Pawar had a series of meetings scheduled, Zilla Parishad elections, there was possibly pressure on the pilot to land at that moment. Does it become more difficult when you're dealing with VVIPs who are working to tight deadlines, often have to go even take the risk or take a chance in low visibility?
Well, that is always a pressure. Need not be said that somebody instructed, even without instructions, if there's a VVIP on board, it then kind of a pressure that I have to perform. And a missed approach, diversion, all these are negative connotations. And from a pilot's perspective, their job is to fly from A to B. And if they divert or go around, it is taken psychologically as a failure, kind of a failure, not exactly failure. So there has to be a kind of human factor investigation. And I have written a paper on this that has been published in the Cambridge University called Cognitive Lockup, why pilots do not go around. But this is not purely a case of low visibility. It is a systemic problem, and it could happen anywhere else, even without a VVIP. Because if you talk about uncontrolled airspace, then uncontrolled airspace...
What was the systemic problem? What was the systemic problem?
See, systemic problem is that, yes, aircraft was airworthy, but the systems are approved and audited by DGCA. So the checks are carried out by the engineer, but the systems are approved and audited. And every time there is an accident, there is a special audit. So what is the outcome of the audit? Nobody knows. So there are regular audits. Why don't the regular audits fulfill the needs that there is a need for a special audit? So that is just basically to show to the public. In one of the investigation reports, in a flying school accident, the investigator at the end of it wrote that soon after the accident, the flying school was closed. And there was a DGCA audit. The purpose of the DGCA audit was only to release options, not to find out the problem. Had it done it in the right spirit, the accident would not have happened. So to show that we are doing things, we do an audit, special audit, and there is a lot of hue and cry. But
Right.
actually, one part of it, nobody knows.
Captain Sam Thomas, do you believe, therefore, that when there is this demand being made that a thorough probe, who should conduct this probe? At the end of the day, the DGCA conducts the probe. Who do you believe is best placed to conduct a probe, and is there a way to minimize the risk factor? I come back to it. There are, Indian skies today have thousands of planes, lots of small planes, flying VVIPs in particular to these smaller airfields. Who should conduct the poll so that an element of trust can be restored?
Rajdeep, at the moment, we are not very upbeat about the agencies conducting probe. I put it to you that if Captain Amit Singh, Sanjay and me were to come and audit your India today, what do we know about the audit of, or the functioning of India today? So we will not be able to come out with a qualitative report that is actually worth being called an audit. So that is exactly a paper exercise that is being conducted in most of the accidents. And like I said, let's just take the instance of a King Air that went off the runway about 110 days back. The AAIB, which is supposed to be tasked with the investigation, has not even opened the file. So when we met the AAIB, they were so upbeat about their capabilities while they were investigating the Air India 171. We put it to you that they don't even will not even get to the preliminary stages. From the preliminary word, we also would like to draw your attention to the preliminary report which was published by AAIB. What an international joke that was. So we are not upbeat about what is going to come out of this. So what we are saying is that until such time that we come up to speed with actual air crash investigations, we need an international body, a third umpire of sorts, to come and look at this. And in the meantime, all agencies like the police be instructed that if an incident like this happens, please cordon off that area, remove the public from there, and just see to it that the place is sanitized and no evidence is lost. Only then can we come to at least a preliminary stage of investigating the accident.
I want to understand two other questions that this air crash has raised. The absence of a mayday call. What does that indicate, Captain Amit Singh? The fact that there was apparently no mayday call, what does that indicate, if anything at all?
No, it could indicate that the pilots were in control of the aircraft till the last minute before they realized that things were hopeless and a accident is imminent. Had they known that there was an engine failure or a technical problem, they would have analyzed and gone through the mitigation plan, troubleshooting, and then decided to transmit a mayday. So mayday is basically, if you look at the voice, for example, in the Ahmedabad accident, the voice transmitted by the pilot of mayday was very calm and composed. There was no panic. So psychologically, it's called dissonance. The physical part is separated from the mind. While there is panic when the pilots see that there is an opportunity to get saved, there's an opportunity for escape, that is where the panic voice comes. But otherwise, a calm mayday call is when that you have given up, it is imminent, that accident has to happen.
Right.
So a call is a thought process. It does not come naturally, and pilots till the last minute were trying, both the cases, they would have tried to avoid mishap. There's another thing, while you were talking about small aircraft.
Can I just ask though, sorry to stop you, I just want to ask two more technical questions. One to you, Captain Thomas. Why was there no readback after the ATC cleared landing? Can you explain why that would happen?
Normally, we should have a clear readback, but from what I'm trying to figure out and whatever messages I got from Baramati, incidentally, I did a few flights in Baramati. A friend of mine owns a flight school there. I flew a small twin engine. I'm familiar with that runway. Now, I put it to you that the visibility was not 3,200 meters, because in 3,200 meters, it's more than 3 kilometers. I can see the runway. So that is again questionable. These are the factors that people in the know must be asked to contribute as far as the investigation is concerned. Now, there is, like you earlier said, there is pressure when VVIPs are there. If you recollect the CDS who passed away in a helicopter crash in Ooty, in Wellington, that aircraft was being flown by the CEO of the squadron in Sulu. So the topmost guys do come under pressure, and we'd like to tell that there are innumerable examples. Chief Minister Rajshekhar Reddy, Speaker Balayogi, these were all people who had in some way inadvertently put pressure on the pilot to complete the mission. This is where it had happened. You have pointed out a very pertinent fact. Yes, that pressure is there. Read back, why was it not there, can only be figured out once we have the ATC transcripts. Because it's almost a reflex for a pilot to say, clear to land so-and-so, so that he can go ahead and do whatever he has to do. But this doesn't seem to be a 3,200 meter visibility accident. Rajdeep.
Very quickly, Sanjay Lazar, I just have a minute on this part of the show. A final comment. Do you believe that, the worst thing we can do is jump to any conclusions, as was the tendency, particularly with the Ahmedabad air crash in June? This is a moment to reflect and perhaps, rather than jump to any conclusions, allow the investigation in a time-bound manner to conclude.
Absolutely, Rajdeep. First of all, like Captain Sam said, condolences go out to the family of those who passed away in this tragedy. I myself had dealt with Ajit Dada numerous times 15 years ago when we broke off and joined his union. So, stickler for timing, stickler for detail, woke up at 5 a.m. Yes, I do hope that because this is such an important event as all tragedies are, that we do get a time-bound investigation. I dearly hope that somebody takes cognizance and starts restructuring and reforming our regulator. Let's have qualified aviators, engineers, technicians at the helm of that organization. God knows we need a PIL to get this correct, because it's high time. We are growing in leaps and bounds in this country, aviation. So that's all I hope for. And a quick report. Thank you.
Captain Amit Singh, just on the last point, why did the aircraft miss the runway during a second landing bid? Do you believe that's the visibility factor? A quick response.
Not just the visibility. The visibility, of course, would have been low, but the sun would be in their eyes. The sun is rising from the east. So that also affects, that scatters the light and the glare and everything. So there could be a possibility of an illusion or a black hole effect that we call, which basically when the visual profile is there, pilots tend to duck under. So go under the profile because of lack of references on the sides. So a lot of issues which have to be dealt, but frankly speaking, AAIB will not be in the position to deal with, because they don't have the experts on human factors to find out what the root cause. They can at best say that the pilot did this. So that is where I'm going to conclude.
As I said, we don't want to blame anyone at this stage. The worst thing you can do is jump to conclusions. These are just some of the unanswered questions, and we hope that those questions will be answered by experts in a time-bound manner. This is an air crash that has once again raised several troubling issues, particularly when VVIPs are involved. I thank my guests for joining me here on this tragic day. Thank you.